All right, guys, when you think of Yellowstone, what do you think of? I mean, they have all kinds of animals. They actually have the most animal species in the lower 48 states. They have 67 different species of animals. So, with all these different mammals, there's going to be some interactions once in a while. So, the first story I'm going to start out with, these are the park records from 1995. Basically, I'm going to cover a few wild stories from 1995 and that involve some fatalities and animal incidents. So, the first one I'm going to cover a concession stand employee. She was 41 years old and she was just out for a jog around lunchtime. And this was on May 17th of 1995. So she was just out for a jog out by the Morning Glory thermal pool area. She actually jogged up on a mother bison and her baby bison and startled them. So the bison basically ran and knocked her over, and then from there proceeded to trample this poor woman, and she actually ended up with a severe laceration to her head and had to be airlifted to Idaho Falls, where at last report she was in stable condition, thank God. So the next story is kind of a crazy story of two little girls. They were actually just some cousins that were camping right in Yellowstone National Park, and basically they wandered off like a 9 and 10-year-old would do. They actually ended up getting 3.5 miles away from their camp, actually with an uphill elevation, and they ended up hunkering down after they realized they were lost. So they made it quite a ways from their original location. They had covered up with some pine branches and things like that to keep warm at night. And this was June 28th, 1995. So apparently in June there was very cold temperatures and there was a rain that night. So they were very concerned. They released 9 different search teams with dogs to search for these young girls, and basically the next day they found them hunkered down in an area that they rechecked. So very, very happy ending to this story. The young girls were found, thank God, and everybody was safe. They were thirsty, cold, hungry, all the above, but they were found and they ended up to be okay. Okay, the next story is actually a very sad story. On the 4th of July, 1995, a deputy sheriff actually passed away. So he's from Texas originally, and he was in a plane, he flew out of Cody, Wyoming, and he had two friends that had planes also. They all took off and they flew out of Cody, Wyoming, and for whatever reason, as he neared Yellowstone, Sylvan Pass, the plane lost power and just basically dropped. So his friends, mayday called authorities. They saw the whole thing happen, and by the time the authorities arrived, the plane was literally burned to basically nothing left. So really, really sad story. It was the sheriff, and he had an occupant in there with him as well. So really, really sad story. There's a lot of plane accidents and fatalities around Yellowstone. There's all kinds of rough weather as well as mechanical issues that can happen, and there's obviously nowhere to land. So, okay, the last story I'm going to cover happened Thursday, July 6, 1995. I'm sad to say there was an auto-related fatality. Basically, a concession worker and their friend were driving in their Ford Tempo along the road, and they collided head on with a tour bus that had 27 people in it. So they were pronounced dead at arrival to the hospital. And the tour bus passengers, 3 of them had to go to the hospital. Otherwise, the rest had minor injuries and they were okay, thankfully. The crash was under investigation. However, there's really no cause that they knew of at the time for the crash. So thank you for coming along. I know there's some crazy stories, and some of them are kind of sad here in Yellowstone for these records, but very interesting just to get a snapshot into the time at that period. So thanks for coming along.